Hello racers, and welcome to today's video. In today's video we are going to take a look at two new products from SKYRC. One is an AC/DC multifunction dual port charger, and I got this as something I wanted to go to the track with just a small charger in my toolbox, and I thought this would fill the bill. And this charger has the ability to be connected to this other new product from SKYRC. This is a 40 amp discharger that's made to plug into the AC/DC charger. So let's first take a look at the specs of the little charger. Now before we get going, I just wanted to mention that I bought my stuff from RC Juice. Now when I got that from RC Juice, I noticed that they sell a lot of these SKYRC products, and they'll put them on sale about once every couple of weeks. So if you keep your eye on their website, you might get a good deal. I've got a 20% off weekend special on these items. So if you want to, I'll put a link to in the description below for these items, and maybe you can get them on sale too. So with that said, let's get into taking a look at this charger. As I said, I wanted to buy a very small form factor charger just to put on my toolbox to bring to the track. This particular charger has two outputs. You can charge 2 packs at a time. I only want to do one, but it's good to have the ability for 2. On AC, it says it'll do 200 watt. And to calculate watts to amps, you take your 200 and you would divide by your voltage that you want to charge at. So I want to charge 2 cell LiPo and 1 cell LiPo. So 2 cell LiPo is about 25 amp. So this little charger should be able to do 25 amp. But you can see here, it says it's restricted to 20 amp per port. So each battery can only get charged at 20 amp. It has more of ability for charging on if you have your own DC power supply, up to 800 watt. And the reason why that they have such high wattage is because the specification says it can go up to 6 cell. So when you're charging at a higher cell, you would need more wattage to get the same current. So that's why the wattage is so much higher. So probably on 6 cell you would be using your own power supply. It says here the ability for this 40 amp discharge, but a little asterisk, which indicates they want you to use that external unit. There's some meat to the potato here. It says it will charge up to 20 amp charge current. For the discharge power, it can only discharge at 10 watt. This little guy at 10 watt, which is only about an amp at 8 volt. So if you were waiting for your battery to store and you had a large milliampere hour battery, this would take quite a while. So that's why I wanted that external discharge unit. So 10 watt built in, or up to 350 watt using that external discharge unit. And you can see here discharge current 2 amp. It says maybe on 1 cell, but definitely not 2S. And external discharge current up to 40 amp. One little number here that's interesting to notice: balanced charge current. Now what that means is when you're charging a battery, a 2 cell battery for instance, here we go. 1 cell is the power connector to the center, your balance lead. That's 1 cell, and then the other cell is the balance lead to the other one. So that's the 2 cell. And what happens when you balance charge your battery? If one is charging quicker than the other, they'll put a discharge current on the cell that's higher. So they both charge the same until they're full. And you want that discharge balance current to be as high as it can be. Now 1.5 is good, but you wanted to see that 2 amps or more for very good fast charging balanced discharge current. Okay, so that is the little dual port AC/DC charger and this new product, the BD350 40 amp discharger. Now this is not like, I did a review of the BD, I think it's the 300 or the 250, which is the 35 amp discharger. It's kind of a self-contained unit. You put a battery on and it'll discharge. I believe this unit is mainly the resistance bank, and you need the AC charger to control it. We're going to test all that out and see how it works. There's not a whole lot of specification on the side. It says it can do 40 amp. It says it can get hot. Big safety note on the side. It says if you're going to discharge at 40 amp, you could burn your house down. So we are going to be very careful with this. Let's open the boxes. Take a look at the charger first. I haven't opened these, so I'm not really 100% sure what we'll find in here. What I'm really suspect of is that there's no cables in these boxes. Let's take a look and see what we got. Little quick start guide. We have a power cord to plug in the AC part of it. Here is the charger. You'll note there is not a single charge lead in the box. And here is the little charge unit. And here is my pen, just so you can show how big it is compared to a pen. So it is quite small. You can see the balance ports on the front and the, what are those, XT30s for the power supply in. There's that AC in here. This is the D200neo. So a very simple charger. We'll try this in a bit. We'll plug it in. But you can see we have no charge lead. So what we'll have to do is we'll take a little break from this after we open the other box to go gather up some charge leads and connectors and make this all working. Okay, so this is the charger. Let's see what we get in the box with the Dark Star 40 amp discharger. Oh, it's packaged very similar to their other discharger. Instruction manual. It shows it connected to a different style of charger. The battery goes there, and you can see a connection to the discharge unit out the side. There's probably no cables in this either. Let's see. Let's see what we got. Out it comes. Oh, I'm wrong. What do we have here? This is the cable to go between the charger and the discharge unit. We actually have that cable supplied. So all I need is a set of charge leads and we'll be able to do a demo. Let's see this discharge unit here. Here we go. This is pretty heavy. You can see that this is where the balance, this is where the little control wire will go. Kind of looks like a balance lead, but it is 4 wire. You can see the little, I think these are XT30s, XT60s, it says on the side. I'm not familiar with these. Oh yeah, XT60s. They just plug in and plug in between. Connected charger. Right, there is, I do not believe that you can use this as a standalone unit. You have to set this to your charger. So the other 35 amp unit that we did the review on, that's probably the best you're going to get for a standalone unit. For this little guy, he connects to their chargers for the controller. So what I'm going to do next is I'll just pause the video for a moment. I'll go get some cabling to plug in the charger to a battery, and we'll come back and we'll try charging and discharging, see if we can figure this little guy out. Okay, we'll see you in a minute. And we are back. I went and I scrounged a few cables. This cable that goes from the it says a discharge port on the AC/DC discharger, the D200neo, goes over to a port on the discharge unit. Connect a charger, and once I did that, you can see the status light has gone green. So it's connected. It's ready to go. Warning on the top, this could burn down the house. You got to be very careful with high current discharging. There's no doubt about that. Uses an XT60 on the output, charger output. There's an A and B side, and I used this maybe about 5 minutes, and I found out that there's one view that shows both ports at the same time. You push the button once and it gets into the port A specifics. There seems to be a push button on this roller, and you can roll side to side. You can see that there's 3.8 volt in each cell. You can see it's kind of flipping between 6.8 and 6.9. Push it again. Now we're looking at port B, and now we're back to port A. Seems to have something Bluetooth enabled. I'm not ready for Bluetooth just yet, so we'll just take a quick look. So let's see how many amps that we could put to this charger. So I'm going to push down on this. See the channel A charge settings. This is a LiPo. Well, actually this is an LIHV. So let's try changing that. So we'll go LIHV. You can see there's quite a few different things. We'll pick LIHV from the list. It says it's 2-cell, which is correct. We're going to do a balanced charge. And let's see how high of a current that we could put this on AC charging. Currently, I'm plugged into the wall with an AC cable. I just want to see if we can do 20 amp. You can see 20 amp is the limit for the port. Let's pick that, and now let's click start. A little bit of a beeping there. You can see that it says 3.9 volt, charging at 19.91 amp. That's actually pretty good for a little AC charge unit. It's going to really work with what I wanted to do, which is to take this to the track. Really small thing to put in my toolbox and charge my batteries. 20 amp is probably plenty for me on a race day. You can see that the charger trying to keep these in balance as it's charging this high current. 401, 402. I wonder if it shows anywhere on here the IR of the cells. That's one thing that I'm not 100% sure. With the instructions, it just gives you a quick start guide. It says go online and see if you can find it. What I'll do is I'll learn a bit more about this, and we'll come back in one more cut to the video for some more detail. But from what I can tell, I don't see where it does that. If I click, oh, it's actually stopped charging. So here we go. We'll go back to start. Maybe when I was backing out of it. There's port B, and then you can see the A and B charging there. That's interesting. Okay, so there is our charge. It can do up to 20 amp, almost. Here's the details. Okay, let's see if we can do a discharge. Let's do a discharge. And now that we got this 350 watt discharge bank plugged in, let's see if we can set the current. Let's see if, no, I was thinking that you could set it as low. So you can see as I pushed it quicker, it was like jumping up quicker. So it says it'll do a 40 amp discharge. Let's give this R1 6400 a run for its money. Start. Let's see what it'll do here. It's thinking about it. It's ramping up the current. See, we're up to 6, 7. Now it isn't fully charged. It's 7.75. So it might not get to 40 amp. We'll see what it does. 19, 20, 21, 25, 27, 30, 36, 38, 40. So we're now doing a 40 amp discharge on this little battery. Not 100% sure that my old connectors can handle it. So what we'll do is we'll give it a little... Oh, you see that the fan is kicked on because the 40 amp bank is getting warm. I'm just monitoring these cables just to be sure nothing's getting hot. And the battery itself is doing well. I do see that the cells, one is 352 and one is 36. So under a heavy discharge, it's out by about 0.1 of a volt. One thing that this can do is you can output the charge and discharge through Bluetooth into your phone. There's a SKYRC phone app, and you can monitor your cells and keep track of the cell condition as you're doing charges and discharges. Now I'm just going to stop that. Now that we've seen it in action, and let's just see if we can do something on a storage charge. That would go to 3.8 volts. Storage says current 20 amp. I wonder if you can. Doesn't seem that you can do more than a 20 amp storage. Let's start that. Now the storage condition was 381 on a LIHV. And you can see that it is storing at 7 amp. And you can, this guy here is, you can hear the fan ramping down. It's actually stopping. So when it got hot, it turned on. When it cooled itself off, it shut off. So that's awesome. All controlled probably by the charger. Oh, and you can see in the storage, the voltage of the cells, 3.85 volt each. So it's using that discharge current to keep those cells balanced as it's doing that discharge. And you can see that as it's getting closer, the amps are reducing. So the little battery pack for that quick charge and discharge, it's not even warm. Probably my wires, my old wires are warmer than it is. And the wire between, because there was 40 amp going through this 12 gauge wire. And it seemed to work fine. So that's excellent. So that is everything I wanted to show with the D200neo AC/DC dual port charger. It's going to work perfect for me because I just want to use it on my bench, plug it in the wall, not worry about my power supply. And then for quick discharging, I was always having problems with a one cell to discharge them quickly, and that's why I got the 40 amp discharge bank that works with the charger. Now there's only about two SKYRC chargers that work with the discharge bank right now, but they're going to offer support for them for their newer chargers that are being released. The D200neo is for sure one of those that work with it. So there you go. So thanks for sticking with me in the review. For those who like this type of thing, click like. If you want to see more of these reviews, click subscribe and you'll be notified when a new one comes out. And if you got any comments about this discharger, this charger, or any of the other products that we see here, just put a comment in the comments below. Thanks. We'll see you in the next video. I did a little bit more investigation into the manual. I looked it up online as suggested in the quick start guide. They don't give me much of an instruction manual in the box. So I looked up online and I found that there is a long press. So if you hold this down a while, you can see that it gets into a system settings menu. And in that system settings menu, there's a few other options there that are interesting. One is that you can actually use this as a little power supply. If you have an AC only and you don't have any other power supply, you can use this as a power supply and you can send power out a different port, either A or B. Then you can choose in there. So DC power B, voltage 20 volt, current 10 amp. Start. I don't know if you can change it. Oh, yep, you can change it. You can set it up as a different little power supply and send output current to out the port. So you could run other devices out the ports of this. So I found that kind of interesting. Let's go back. There's also, you can see here it says power for tire warmer A. So out of the A port, you can connect your SKYRC tire warmer to it. So I found that interesting, rather than plug it into your own power supply. And then SKYRC also sells a power hub, and you could have that plugged into your port B, and you can send power to the PD power hub. So that was kind of interesting. I was actually kind of looking for that power meter. Remember I was talking about, wanted to know the IR of a battery, and it didn't really show on the screen. It's actually a different button you press. So if you pick power meter, oh, it says power meter B. Let's pick it again. I have to go to port A, long press. Go to battery meter. So battery meter A, checking. It shows that they're both, cell 1 is 3.65, the other one's 3.85, 384, and 3 milliohm internal resistance. So at least they're balanced. The IR shows different on different chargers, so there's not a standard algorithm for that, but what you're looking for is the lowest IR that you can find. And I call that the battery meter. The other thing that I found out that was very interesting, see if we can find the back here. Here's the back. Is that when you're charging, so let's say we're into port A, and let's pick the task type. There's a balance charge, there's a charge, a storage, and then there's this idea of a parallel charge. And that is a special feature of this little charger, that you can get a special wire, basically a Y harness that comes from port A and port B, like the red joined together, and then the black would join together, and you could charge a single battery from both ports. And in that case, you get 20 amp from one side plus 15 amp from the other for a combined 35 amp charge. So this little guy can do 35 amp charging, and then with the help of the discharge bank, you can get 40 amp discharging. So this is quite a little charger. I just wanted to follow up with that after I read the instruction manual. So not only do you get your standard balance charging and storage and discharging, you get this idea of a parallel charge. So if you're really looking for like a 35 amp charger, this little guy can do it, and it can do it off an AC plug. So that's pretty incredible. You don't need a power supply, an optional power supply for that. So I thought I'd just follow up with you. Thanks for watching and sticking with me. We'll see you again.